it's got to be somewhat intimidating. Like round one, paper magic, you sit down, it's just like, oh, I'm just playing
Yep.
Tower.
Want to get started your match? You called over feature match round 1 versus the world champion. Hope you had a breakfast today, and I hope it was good.
All right, now we are moving into game number 2 here between Izzet Murktide and now a Jeskai Breach deck, a deck that has been championed by Ross Merriam himself.
Yeah,
over and over again.
Ross been on this deck for a long time, kind of singing the virtues of it, and has the results to back it up. Him and Corey were crushing for a while with this deck. So
that is very true.
And I gotta say here, I'm good friends with Ross for a long time, but Sean's sleeves are pretty freaking sweet. You got Kirby in like I don't remember the fish pet's name.
Fish, I don't actually remember.
Chat could help us out there.
Chat
What was the fish helper's name from the Kirby game? But
I just remember Waddle Doo. That's all I remember. the only partner that really mattered. But we see turn 1 Ragavan on the side of Sean. Let's see if Ross has an answer to this little monkey dude.
There was a Ragavan dance.
There was Ragavan dance. Oh. No.
Oh, wow. So Ross had very close to the nuts there with his own Ragavan and the Mox Amber. And that Amber had a bolt or a heat to kill the opposing Ragavan. That's all you could ever ask for. But looks like just a Ragavan war.
Yep. Ragavan jumping in front of Ragavan. We see Sean playing a Mishra's Bauble and going to take a look at his own deck here after cracking it. And we'll see. Is there a follow-up here?
Yeah, I mean,
kill Ross.
The old Ragavan song and dance on the first turn.
Oh, and it looks like going to tap and float a mana before Ragavan hits the bin. And Ragavan is in. So Ross will go down to 15, going to reveal the top. It is a Mishra's Bauble.
Real important that Ross added red there, real important for the game.
Do you think it was red?
Good job,
Not like green?
It has to be red. It has to be the color of the
it has to be red.
Yep.
Sorry, yes.
So it's locked to red.
Right.
Didn't even use it.
And Mishra's Bauble going to be played and cracked by Sean.
It's a pretty good hit off Ragavan there, obviously.
Yes.
The Bauble, one of the few cards you could cast in this spot. So great opening for Sean. Ross is on the back foot here.
Yes, and I imagine there's there's probably a few cards in Ross's deck that Sean's interested in. But there's probably quite a few that he would have no interest in as well.
Definitely for sure. Ross, they're playing very similar decks. Sort of the core of the early game, it's the same Ragavan, Channeler, Shredder, and so on and so forth. A couple of interactive spells, but Ross stepping into some more unfair stuff, where Sean having more fair threat in Murktide. It's funny to call Murktide fair, I guess. 2 mana, 8 flyer, but
sure.
Definitely doing a more, Sean's playing more normal Magic and Ross is doing more broken things, even though they're both playing a similar core.
Yeah, so we'll see. Ross shuffling up after fetching up an island, so has all 3 colors here, and the Mox Amber in play, which is just kind of a useless artifact at the moment. But
just sitting there, hanging out.
Chilling.
Listen, Mox Amber tapped for red this game. Ross is just getting the Amber primed up.
And now it can once again, as we see Ragavan dash.
Oh, man.
And didn't tap the Mox Amber that time.
Yeah, where's the float, Ross? You got to be consistent, all right?
Ragavan to the bin with a second bolt from Sean's side. And now Ross tapped out, and with Sean with an active Ragavan on the battlefield, it's going to consider here, this next turn is going to be big for Sean. Is Sean going to start running away with this game?
Yeah, I mean, the monkey sub game has been dominated here by Sean. Gotten his monkey through, killed multiple monkeys, and kind of like letting that early game snowball ride.
We'll see what he decides to do here. Makes the 3rd land drop. Polluted Delta. Gonna get in with Ragavan once again. Trigger. We see a land on top. So
bummer. Only get a treasure.
Only get a treasure. That's it. Gonna fetch up a land here. See what the follow-up play is from Sean, as that graveyard filled up pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, if we see another big threat here, we start to see the scales tip pretty hard in Sean's favor. Ragavan gets you off to the good start, and then if you can capitalize on it, it's usually gonna get you there.
Let's see, as Sean does also have a pretty decent hand. Looks like 5 cards in hand as well.
Yeah, hitting that bobble off the Ragavan is not to be underestimated. That when your Ragavan just draws you a free card,
Right.
that really, really keeps the ball rolling.
And it was for free. So
Right.
so Mishra's Bobble gonna take a look at Ross's top card before making another play here. And thinking about what to do, deploy another threat, maybe keep open some counter magic if he has that available to him.
Honestly, I mean, the ability to do both is there with 4 mana, so
That's true.
but just gonna pass and draw.
Pass, draw off the bauble trigger, and back to Ross it goes. Now Ross make his third land drop here.
Ross got some work to do.
Mm.
And by work, I don't mean tapping a Mox Amber for a useless red. I mean like making some game relevant plays.
Right.
Get back in the game here.
Can't even tap that Mox Amber right now anyway.
Actually, you can tap it.
Oh, you can tap it. It just doesn't do anything.
Pretty sure. I think you're allowed to do that on Arena or Magic Online. Could be wrong though.
Well, I mean, just because you can do it on Magic Online doesn't mean it's
very true. Very, very true.
We'll see, because this is a big turn. As we say, Sean has the opportunity to start running away with the game here. You know, Ross is already at 12. He's gonna have to start doing something.
Yeah, I mean, Sean would definitely like to get some other threat in play to kind of close things out a little bit faster. You know, right, maybe a 6-turn clock and all. But if you're Ross, I mean, with Sean not playing a threat there, I mean, Sean's hand has to be either all lands or all good interactions. You see that the counter spell hits to Teferi, so
right.
Ross has a lot of work to do.
Yes, and Teferi's not going to be able to help this time. Ragavan hits once again a Ledger Shredder.
Yeah,
so
and a lot of similar cards in these decks. So Ragavan's going to have a lot of good hits available.
That's right. We'll see. Sean probably has some interest in playing that, getting another threat out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's see, fetching up just a basic island here. And we'll see with the multiple treasures, 4 mana up at the time. It looks like Ledger Shredder tapping both of those islands, going to get that in play. And second spell, Murktide Regent. So speaking of threats.
Yeah, and it still has 2 mana up off these treasures. That's what makes Ragavan the big draw in these decks. It's honestly much less the steal card ability and much more the mana ability. Just being able to play this threat that gives you the mana alienate so you can deploy your threats and cast counter spells. It's just exactly what this Murktide deck is built on.
Right, and we see, waiting on that to resolve, the Murktide trigger going to happen here first. Conniving, going to draw a card and discarding a Consider. So the Ledger Shredder will also grow. And Murktide, not a baby.
Yeah, this one's looking pretty wrapped up here. Ross got to pull a real rabbit out of a hat. Take off that jazz hat, flip it over, and pull a rabbit out.
How do you know it's a jazz hat?
I know, Ross. It's definitely a jazz hat.
Let's see, tapping 2. So holding on here, gonna play an Emery.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't really affect this board too much, you know. Summoning Sick, of course, milling a few cards. And then Ross is currently dead on board. It does block Ragavan, but I think we're past the Ragavan stage of the game right now.
Yes. We'll see. Taking a look at that graveyard. Kind of a look at despair in his eyes right now.
That's just Ross's resting face.
Oh.
So
I don't know if that's because he was a jazz fan or what. We'll see.
Because over 10 power in the air for lethal here. So
yes, I tapped Steam Vents, Ross at 10, passing back the turn. Sean untapping the wealth of resources that he has and doing a quick math, gonna kind of size up the battlefield here. And I imagine this game is not going to last too much longer.
Yeah, I mean, if Ross has an Unholy Heat, can kill the Shredder and go to 1. But Odawara and back it
that's
up.
Enough.
Yeah, I mean, probably enough either way, but gonna seal the deal for real. And
that is for sure.
Yeah, that was game 2
of our time shifted backup feature match.
Correct.
And so we should be heading into game number 3.
Hey, it's us again.
Oh, it's us. We're awesome.
We are great. Yeah, definitely a pretty interesting first round there. You know, the world champ. So it's cool when the world champ's in attendance. And someone is gonna have the old round 2. I'm 0-1. I lost my match. It's okay though. I know it's 8 rounds today. I'm gonna buck up. Round 2 pairing. Oh, I'm playing against the world champ. Cool. That's gonna be the round 2. Looks like we're gonna finish this match though. Or
yeah, we're moving into game number 3 here.
All right.
I believe.
Right. So
So it looks like a mulligan on Sean's side.
enter Ragavan subgame, round 2. Fight.
Now, does Sean have the answer or a Ragavan of his own? That's the question.
Got the
It looks
answer.
like the
All right. So
answer.
subgame achieved.
I like that. And we see Ross, all of his colors, playing Expressive Iteration. Going to take a look at the top 3 there.
This is the risky rare turn 2 iteration. Now Ross does have a number of zeros in his deck with both Bobble and Mox, but does not hit one. So desperation turn 2 play. I think playing iteration on turn 2, even with zeros in your deck, is pretty risky.
Yes. Oh, the question is, what is he digging for there?
I mean, as Mox Amber or Bobble can be played off the exile ability. So if you can resolve iteration on 2 and draw 2 cards, you're super happy about it. It's just the risk of will you hit one or not, and Ross did not.
Right. Is there a reason to take that like high risk, high reward play though?
I think it just speaks to the desperation of his hand. Ross is saying that my hand needs help, and I'm concerned with being able to kind of get things going here. I am missing a piece. I want to resolve this in the face of counter spells. So fires it up and does not get rewarded. And then we see a hearse from Sean. That's going to be pretty nasty.
Now an Urza Saga from the side of Ross coming in, and a Teferi to follow that up. Going to drop down to 1, bouncing that hearse back to hand and drawing a card, but not before the hearse eats a couple things out of Ross's graveyard.
Yeah, we're seeing two of the major advantages here from Ross's deck. So it's kind of a pseudo mirror. They're playing both on Ragavan, both playing on Holy Heat, Ledger Shredder, similar cores, iteration, but Ross has access to both Teferi and Urza Saga, which are both insanely good match cards in the matchup against counter spells and just good cards in general.
Yes. Now we'll see what is Sean going to do to kind of follow this up. Now Ross has got shields down now. Like the Teferi's out there, is totally vulnerable, being at 1 loyalty. Sean's got 3 mana. He's gonna have to affect the board somehow at this point.
Yeah, one of the differences in between these decks is that like while the creature bases are similar, Sean's deck is a little more reliant on counter spells and Murktide, whereas Ross's deck has a little more power in it. It's a fairy and then Urza Saga, both very, very powerful cards, very, very threatening cards. So Ross can afford to go more shields down than Sean can because he has more large follow-ups that can kind of get and do the thing here.
Gotcha. And we see the Ledger Shredder come down, conniving away a land, and Unholy Heat was the follow-up to kill that Teferi, and passing the turn back to Ross.
Shredder's good, but we're going to see Saga do some stuff here. The hearse will make it so the shenanigans from Underworld Breach will not be in play, but Ross does allow other avenues as well.
Yes. So Ledger Shredder gonna come in for 2 here. Was able to double spell that turn 2, the hearse and a Ragavan follow up. Gonna make a little Karnstruct here.
I am Karn.
And passing the turn back, we'll see the trigger up to 3. Is Ross going to make a second Karnstruct? Is the question.
I mean, it's interesting. If Ross doesn't, I think that signifies his hand is quite powerful because making a Karnstruct here is quite good, obviously. Ross is not a full-on artifact deck, so you see these are only 2/2s at the moment. There aren't a bunch of things in play, artifact lands, so on and so forth. But Ross is going to go get an artifact with the Urza Saga, and he saw Aether Spellbomb in his hand as well, so these things can grow pretty quick. And the old Drumski can add to the mana as well.
Yes, and that Karnstruct was waiting in the wings to come on into play, so it looked like he had anticipated doing that once he'd made the first one.
So now we have one that can attack, and then one that can tap mana with the drum. And this is going to be a big turn for Ross here, I think. There are a number of pretty good cards in play for Sean, but the raw power on Ross's side can overcome for sure.
Yes. Oh, we'll see. I mean, 3/3s, those block monkeys pretty well too.
They do.
We'll see Ross's follow-up here is an Aether Spellbomb. Got that in hand.
There's the bomb scheme. And now you have
bomb.
2 4/4s and a mana up from the drum.
Yes. We'll see what Sean decides to do. Both players still at 16 life, so early on in the game.
Yeah, and I think the late game here favors Ross. Again, Urza Saga, kind of bigger things going on. Sean can pinch in here with the Ledger Shredder again for 2, but it's going to give Ross time to get things going here where another Saga or something else could really turn the tide.
Yes. But we'll see. Just gonna get in with the Ledger Shredder and pass the turn back. So nothing further from the side of Sean, including a land drop.
Yeah, and I think Sean's the one that needs to improve here. As far as the board looks right now, it looks pretty good for Ross.
And we'll see Ross deliberating what to do on this turn here. Going to tap 2, and is that prismatic ending on the
Yep.
The hearse? Counterspell?
Wow. So we see, I mean, again, the Murktide deck is not, your a true control deck. There aren't a ton of counter spells in the deck. So using
Mm.
one there on the ending to defend the hearse shows Sean really values that hearse.
Yes, I mean, that's what could be preventing Ross from comboing or something
Absolutely.
like that. So very important to Sean to keep that in play. But he does still have the one attacker in the air as well. So a little evasion.
Yeah, I mean, Ross's board ain't getting any smaller though. Those are some large constructs. We have currently 10 power on Ross's side of the board and a bounce effect too.
Yes. Playing Mox Amber, looking to do a little work this game besides tapping.
Look at Sean resolving the Connive here on Shredder from Ross's second spell.
And Emery is the follow up on Ross.
Hitting a bobble there is pretty huge. So now
Yes.
the Emery bobble engine's online.
Ooh, Thassa's Oracle is going to be the next play from Ross tapping Emery, the Mox Amber, and the Springleaf Drum.
Not usually
right at the bottom.
the intended purpose of Thassa's Oracle here, but honestly, the
Right.
1/3 body blocks Ragavan really well. So
that it does. It certainly does. And having that blocker back, looks like Ross is feeling confident enough to just get in. And now this is a huge attack.
yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying, where Sean's kind of nickel and diming, and Ross has got $200 bills in play.
Yes.
Ross hundreds, and 10's a lot. You can't just take 10 here. So looks like Sean might be in chump block mode and is falling further and further behind.
Yes, it looks like the monkey is going to jump in front. Ragavan not really built to block. So still going to take 5, drop down to 11 with Ross at 14. And Sean really with only one threat in play. I guess the hearse is sort of a threat if you can get to that point, but
Yeah,
it's more serves a different purpose.
the hearse does neuter Emery, so that engine is offline. But these 5/5s are looking pretty big.
Yes.
So we'll see what Sean can do here.
I mean, that doesn't deter Ledger Shredder from getting in the red zone here. Ross going to take 2, drop down to 12. So Sean's got to have something to follow up. And it looks like it will be a dress down.
Very, very powerful. That is a dress down, yes, once again. And that's going to kill both Saga Tokens, which is huge. Huge play from Sean here. And going to play it on Sean's end step. So it dies at the next end step. So Ross's creatures will not have abilities this turn. So heads up play from Sean.
Yes. We'll see Mox Amber tapping down. So tapping 3, playing it to Teferi. Seeing if it's good. And it looks like it will be. Teferi going to immediately tick down. We're going to bounce that Ledger Shredder back to hand and draw. And another expressive iteration in Ross's hand. We'll see if that's the card that gets played here. And it will not be. It will be a prismatic ending on the hearse.
Yeah, the white cards work in overtime for Ross here. Both ending and Teferi are so phenomenal in this matchup.
Yes. And we got to see both of them come down there and take care of any board that Sean did have left. I mean, is it like Thassa's Oracle going to be attacking for 1? Or are we going to see Emery get in the red zone? Sean's at 11 still. It's pretty high up. Sean's been missing his land drops until just now. So just made his 4th land drop with that Flooded Strand.
Yeah, it looks like Ross leaving back the 1/3 to block a possible dash Dragavan, just kind of covering all his bases. Ross is very ahead here, so there's no reason to be too frisky. And with a major advantage to Teferi in play, and Sean having actual nothing on the battlefield at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it is game number 3, so you got to leave it all out there as we see Ledger Shredder coming down on the side of Sean. And the follow-up play looks like a braid to take care of the Emery.
Looks like it.
And it will.
Emery's gone. Emery wasn't really doing a ton there. There were no artifacts to graveyard just yet, although it was Spellbomb in play, which can be bounce replayed. So
look like conniving away a counterspell there to grow the Ledger Shredder off of that second spell. So a 2/4 in the air. Ross back on his turn, going to Aether Spellbomb, drawing a card. Tap 2 and let's see what he has here. It is a Ledger Shredder of his own.
Pseudo mirror.
And then another Emery.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we were saying, watching Nathan's match, Izzet Murktide is one of the best decks in the format, but it is definitely a deck that does not come back super well. Once it gets into a spot like this, and when it falls behind, the cards in the Izzet Murktide deck are kind of get ahead cards, Spell Pierce, Ragavan. Once you start to fall behind, you start getting attacked by fastest oracles
Yes.
and taking one.
So that's his Oracle. Does feel pretty frisky there. I'm gonna get in Sean down to 9. And thinking about what he can do here to get back into this game. I mean, if you take a look, just look at this battlefield right now, and it's like Sean has his 4 lands in play. Ross has just the world, Planeswalker, 3 lands, artifacts, creatures, threats,
Yeah,
everything.
you show a non-Magic player this game, say ask who's winning, and I think they'll be able to tell Ross is winning. It's just too much stuff in play.
Yes. And Bolt taking care of the second Emery, and then Murktide Regent. Sean does have a pretty full graveyard here.
Yeah, and the Bolt, getting rid of the Emery so the Spellbomb is gone, is also pretty clutch too. So, I mean, if it's going to start somewhere, it's probably going to start here with a big Murktide.
Yes.
But the Fairy is still in play. It cannot bounce just yet, and the Murktide will be able to attack it. Although Ross, in the worst case scenario, could just chump block with the Shredder, pump to Fairy, and then bounce Murktide next turn.
Yeah, so we'll see if that's what he ends up doing. Up goes to Fairy after drawing a card for turn. And I'm going to take a look at the cards in hand. Looks like playing and fetching a Flooded Strand. I'm going to shock in a Steam Vents down to 9.
Interesting shock there. I wonder if Ross is out of basics.
Could be. We'll see what Ross's follow-up here is this turn. And it looks like Underworld Breach.
Oh, it's breaching time.
Do we get to like sit back? Somebody bring popcorn? Is this what this?
We have popcorn? I hope we have popcorn.
I can go get some popcorn.
So Breach of Force allows you to give all the cards to your graveyard escape 3. So you can just keep casting your cards. And with a Shredder in play and Emery, Ross is going to cast a lot of spells this turn. We've seen Underworld Breach show up more and more in Modern now. Once that was a combo card. We're seeing it much more in kind of fair decks, just a way to just cast 5 spells out of your graveyard, which is pretty insane. Plays very well with Dragon Range Channeler, but not really necessary here to do a lot of stuff.
Looking at cycling those Emerys, saying I'm going to play an Emery, and then one of the Emerys will die, and then the other one will come back, and I'll mill more cards into my graveyard, and so on and so forth. Mox Amber, so looping Emerys and Mox Ambers here.
Yep. So each Mox that's replayed is more mana, so making mana every time. Now it's important to note though that the Thassa's Oracle is in play.
Right.
So normally when this deck completely goes off and does a full combo, it keeps doing this, kind of milling, making mana, milling, making mana until there are no cards left, and you play the Thassa's Oracle to win the game. But the Oracle's in play, so we'll see. Ross can obviously just use this to gain a big advantage. But there's your grinding station, another part of the equation.
I'm gonna tap that Emery.
Tapping with the drum for mana, tapping the Mox for mana, and have a station.
Counting how many cards he's got left.
So Ross is going to just lay his hand face up on the table. And Sean says, yeah, whatever.
Right?
Do it.
I think that's actually that's his graveyard that he has in hand, right?
Oh,
so
my bad.
It's fine.
Might as well be his hand.
Yeah,
right?
he doesn't have anything in his hand, so no. It works. See, grinding station, eat 3 more, play the Mox Amber again. There we go, tapping grind station, Mox Amber back to hand, back to graveyard. Yes. Oh my.
Yeah, we got to talk to our coverage staff by getting some clown music on this streaming. We need a little bit of
clown music and popcorn.
Yeah, seriously, popcorn too. I mean, if that's in the budget, we can probably work that one out.
I might have some white cheddar popcorn somewhere in the cupboard. Grab some.
You definitely popcorn's always good. So grinding away here, every artifact sacrifice untaps grinding station, which can mill 3. Obviously the escape things, and they're going to use it. We saw the Aether Spellbomb to bounce the Oracle and replay it. So even though it was already in play, Ross had a plan and takes it down 2-1.
2 games to 1. Ross Merriam on Jeskai Breach. Very impressive.
Yeah, great first round there. We got a world champ. We got one of our most decorated SCG players of all time. And I think we're going right to a break here though and get ready for round number 2, which will be starting up shortly.
So exciting.